The South African Democratic Teachers Union has expressed concern at an increased level of violence at the province's schools. It's warned that it may lead to the closure of some of those schools in KwaZulu-Natal. For more on this, we can speak to Naptosa's KZN CEO, Thirona Moodley. Thirona, very good evening to you. I'm grateful for your time. I was looking at one of the reports on the levels of violence in KwaZulu-Natal, and in one incident, apparently a group of robbers gained access to a school and then got there and stripped teachers of their belongings. Has that been a long-standing problem in KZN?
Hi, good evening, Tembekile. Good evening to your listeners. Yes, it is an ongoing issue in our province, and it doesn't seem to be improving in any way. Actually, it's getting more violent as these incidents occur in our schools.
What do you mean when you say it's getting more violent?
Well, now we're seeing robbers enter schools armed. They are setting off, there's gunfire accompanying the robbery. We've had 2 principals this year shot in botched hijackings at their schools. We have seen teachers being assaulted during these robberies. So they seem to be getting more violent, and that is really worrying for us as a teacher union.
And is this an issue in areas that are known to have, for example, an issue with crime, a problem of gangsterism, or is it just criminals targeting specifically schools?
Well, it looks like these criminals that are seeing schools as soft targets right now. We do know that school securities are not the best in terms of fences, CCTV cameras, and particularly security guards. Most schools just have one security guard that will determine who accesses the school and who doesn't. So it leaves the rest of the school perimeter open to and more vulnerable to entries of criminal elements into the school. So they are seeing schools as soft targets, and it's an opportunistic crime as well. When they see that here's an opportunity, it's easy, I can get in and out very quickly. So it's not really, an organized situation. It's just schools are easy prey. But we've also found that in the recent, since the opening of schools, there are particular areas in the KZN province that are seen as hotspots. And one of this is the Pinetown district, which is largely urban as well as some township and rural schools. And there have been several incidents of armed robberies in these schools where learners were attacked, teachers were attacked and robbed of their valuables. So particularly now, there is the issue in the Pinetown district in KwaZulu-Natal.
And has there been a response, an adequate response from the people responsible, the government, I mean, as far as making sure that your members, the teachers and pupils are able to go about their business without the threat from criminals?
Well, we will first look to the Department of Education because it is their responsibility not only to keep the workplace safe for teachers, but they have a responsibility to these learners as well. So our first port of call as Naptosa would be knocking on the door of the Department of Education to ask them how it is that they can intervene and resolve this very challenging issue that is that are in our schools and causing such disruptions. Because remember, the day that the robbery happens is a day that will come and go. But at the end of the day, there's going to be long-term psychological effects on the learners as well as the pupils. So at this point in time, we need more than security. We need psychosocial support. We need learners to understand and come to terms with the trauma that they experience. So we will not only look to the Department of Education to up the security in our schools, improve the security, but we're also going to look to them to provide support after these unfortunate incidences take place in our schools.
And when these crimes happen, when teachers and children are attacked while at school, it's interesting to me that from what we're hearing from yourselves and the other teacher representatives in the province, it is the personal belongings of the people that are taken. I wonder if school equipment, i.e. computers, for example, if those are ever taken in these attacks.
Absolutely. I mean, that is what they would go for first. And, schools have now been provided with smart boards, laptops that accompany the smart boards, projectors, and teachers have been provided with laptops. After a long cry for electronic equipment and for us to move into this fourth industrial revolution, our province has started, distributing these electronic devices to assist teachers to teach. And unfortunately, of course, the word gets out by children and learners in the schools that, these valuables are in the schools. So criminals attack because they know what's available for them to actually steal, and, they are going in knowing what it is that they can get. So, yes, they are valuables that belong to the school property. And I must also add, Timbukile, that these resources are not going to be easily replaced. It was a struggle to get them in the first place. And in KZN, the Department of Education had serious budget cuts. And to have these resources replaced is going to be virtually impossible. And it's going to place those learners on a back foot in that they are going to be disadvantaged compared to other schools that have the resources. But having said that, of course, the teachers and the management staff have their personal property and valuables stolen as well. We find that schools that teachers have teachers' cars are hijacked and stolen from the parking lots. We have teachers' personal belongings like watches, jewelry. We actually had an incident where the robbers went in with a bank card machine and attempted to have teachers swipe their cards so they can actually get cash out of it. So it's just getting more brazen. There's more techniques involved by these criminals because schools are seen as really soft targets.
What then are the solutions? You mentioned, for example, the issue of a school having one guard. And I remember when I was in school, even if you had 2 or 3 guards, it would usually be a man or a woman armed with just a baton. And I wonder what those people can do when faced by a group of criminals who seem quite organized.
Well, Timbukile, the school campus is huge, and many schools have different entrances to the schools, but more than that, schools have their fences that have collapsed. There's gaping holes in the fences. There's no walls that surround the school campus, so there are various access points. And we would like, and the ideal would be for the Department of Education to secure these schools' infrastructure, to put up structures that are able to assist the school in protecting the campus. But having said that, Timbukile, we cannot constantly look at the Department of Education to assist us. I think the communities play a huge role because more often the goods that are stolen from the schools are then sold in the communities. And we need communities to actually inform the police, inform the schools, even if it's anonymously, that look, I know this is happening, or when these robberies are being planned, to alert the schools, because at the end of the day, the communities own the schools and they need to take ownership and responsibility. Because if they allow these robbers and these robberies to continue, it's the learners in those communities that are actually being disadvantaged. To be really honest, Timbukile, you won't find this happening in well-resourced schools who can afford to up their security and for the school to pay for it. And those schools will stay protected because they have CCTV camera, they have a number of security guards, they have good walls, high walls, electric fences even. So it's always the disadvantaged that are going to be victims and targets, and they'll continue to be disadvantaged unless the community steps up, partner with the police and policing forums in the communities to actually find how they can take ownership of the schools.
Thirona, thank you so much for speaking to us. Thirona Moodley is the CEO of Naptosa, the teachers union in KwaZulu-Natal, speaking to us about the increasing attacks by criminals on teachers and pupils.